I think for me, the best way I can frame it, the best way I've understood it to explain to people that don't know what a coach is, because I think it's really misunderstood. It's clarity and accountability in the sense that a lot of us are trying to overcome our problems by ourselves. And granted, we weren't taught to ask for help, which would make sense. However, the way that I like to see it is if your problem is really close to you and it's so close to you that you can't see a path forward, then having someone else come in there and be an external perspective for you to help you see your problem from a different perspective, from a different angle. You're able to overcome those problems a lot easier because you have someone that doesn't have the bias that you have towards that problem. And
Yeah.
so not only am I giving people clarity on why they're dealing with X problem, for me, it's a lot of self-sabotage, procrastination, imposter syndrome, stuff like that, self-doubt, fear. I'm able to help people understand why that fear is there to begin with, and then have them take actionable steps to overcome that fear and hold them accountable by doing so.
Before we dive into today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us grow and inspire more people on their journeys. Thank you.
Hello, James. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. Great to be with you.
So, James, for those who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a podcaster and a personal coach. I host the You Can Too podcast, and I've been coaching for almost 4 years now, crazy enough. Those are the two main things that I have going on.
And can you reveal how old are you actually?
Yeah, I turned 21 actually 5 days ago.
Oh, nice. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that far away from my birthday, so it's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Because I find it really impressive considering your age and the stuff that you've achieved already and the mindset people you spoke with. So you were doing really well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And to start or to provide people with a bit of the background, you've experienced some unfortunate events in your life early. So can you please tell us a bit more about this? And then we can talk about how it shaped your journey onward.
Yeah, for sure. My father and uncle both passed away at 37, which is a really young age, obviously, but I didn't realize how young it was when it happened for me. And then my grandfather passed away a few months before his retirement. That's the one that really I was a little bit older for. I really recognized mortality is such a massive thing, and to work your entire life to not even get to experience retirement just a few months away,
Mhm.
definitely made me change the way that I approach life. But those are things that were kind of pivotal for me.
And how old were you back then when it happened?
I'm not even sure, man. My father, I think I was 6. My uncle, I think I was 10 or so. And my grandfather, probably around there too.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And I mean, obviously it was hard to deal with this, but when did you decide that you can turn into your strength, such as, to overcome it and then become a coach? And I'm not sure if it's appropriate to say this way, but benefit from this experience.
Yeah, it's definitely appropriate. I think for me, it was listening to podcasts, reading books, going into the space of how my perception can shape my experiences. Because my whole life, it felt like life was happening to me. I always ask that question: is why is this happening to me?
Mhm.
And I'm going to get a answer that reinforces the question I'm asking myself. So when I started taking in new information, I started asking, how is this happening for me? That's when things started to change because I asked a different question. I was looking for, different proof to reinforce how this could benefit me. So yeah, I think it's definitely necessary.
I find it, as I said before, impressive that you are asking these questions in such a young age and that you already had this mindset. So was there any other figure that helped you in this, or was it just you searching for the answers or searching how to resolve such a situation?
I think so. I think growing up, at least for me in school, I felt like I was learning things I would never use in real life, nothing that was actually valuable to me. But then I still saw people doing exceptional things in the world, and that didn't make sense to me, right? Like, how are these people able to do things that we've been given no guidance on how to do for ourselves? And so I was always curious of the bigger questions in life, I guess you'd say, for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you are listening to some podcasts or reading books or maybe even some influential figures. Can you name some specific books, podcasts, people?
Yeah, I think the two books that were really pivotal for me was Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a book I recommend to everyone. And then A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Those two are like the scientific and then also the spirituality of life. And I think it answers a lot of questions a lot of people have.
Yeah. And how did you find reading those books? Because I assume that in younger age, it might be harder to understand. So did you find it easy? Did you struggle, or what was it like for you?
Yeah, it's funny because throughout school I took pride in never reading. I'd never finished a book throughout my entire like schooling career. Never went
Yeah.
to high school or never went to college. It never made sense for me. But I think it was just I honestly don't really know how I came across them. I guess it wasn't necessarily easy nor difficult to read them. I think it was just something that became a part of my everyday life. Every single morning I would read.
Mhm.
Nowadays I don't really have that habit anymore. I'll listen to audiobooks a little bit more, but still there's so much power in just picking up a book and looking at it with, the actual physical book in front of you. There's something about it. But I wouldn't say it was hard nor easy.
Mhm. But when you said that you never really read books or you weren't into it before, that's something I can relate to. Because when I had to read the books at middle school, not going to lie, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really find much purpose in it. But then when I discovered, for example, self-help books or non-fiction books, let's say, that's when I realized how much I was missing out, because there is so much wisdom and you can literally pick anything that you find interesting. So I'm glad that you mentioned this, and that is definitely something that I can relate to.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that. Right with you on that.
And what about some podcasts? Can you name any specific ones that helped you before?
Yeah. Man, it's funny because as a podcaster, I don't find myself listening to podcasts that much anymore. But when I
Mhm.
first got started, I think Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom, I think everyone knows who that is by now, but I was listening to him years
Mhm.
ago, so it's cool to see his growth. Lewis Howes was really helpful for me when I first started. I don't know. Yeah, those are the two that come up for me right now.
Yeah, I really like Chris Williamson. I think he's just one of the best ones. So I'm glad to hear that you discovered him that early, because it helped to go through those situations or shaped you in a way. I discovered it a bit later, but I wish I discovered them earlier as well. So really well done. And some people, if there were any, I don't know, famous figures maybe that inspired you as well.
The one that comes to mind for me is a rapper named J. Cole. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, he's my favorite, man. I've been to two concerts in my life, and both of them were him.
Mm,
And they were in different places too, so it shows my commitment. Yeah, I
nice.
think growing up, I always listened to his work. I always felt rap. I loved rap, but a lot of rap was just talking about stuff that I didn't resonate with.
Mhm.
And so when I listened to him, it was like him talking about real stuff, telling a real story, and I really appreciate that to this day.
Yeah, I know him, but I don't really listen to him. So I was about to ask you if his lyrics is something more helpful and more meaningful. I don't want to generalize, but not, talking about money, women, cars, and this
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, he wrote a song called "Love Yours," which is just appreciating what you have, not always looking for more. And I literally got it tattooed on my
Oh,
arm.
nice.
Funny enough,
Wow,
so yeah,
that's the
definitely a
real
big,
dedication.
yeah, definitely a big role model for me for sure.
Mhm. Do you still listen to him?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
And out of curiosity, what other rappers do you listen to? I used to listen to rap when I was younger, or younger before, so I'm curious.
yeah. There's a lot of people that I like. I think Big Sean's another person that I think doesn't get enough emphasis, but talks about real stuff. He's really spiritual nowadays. He wrote a book recently. Russ as well. Those are
Mhm.
probably my three like people that talk about real stuff but can also make good music. Those are
Yeah,
my
nice.
three.
I will do my homework afterwards and listen to some of
Yeah.
their songs, especially the one you tattooed. You mentioned before that you didn't go to college, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
So, what was the decision behind this? You said
It,
that you didn't really see purpose in going there.
yeah, I mean, I played baseball throughout my entire life since I was probably 4 years old, played in high school. And the only reason I ever thought about going to college was to play baseball.
Hmm.
And in high school, when COVID happened, I tore my labrum. So for 2 weeks, I was sleeping on a recliner, wasn't moving, taking oxys every few hours. Like, really made me rethink and have to reassess the direction I wanted to take my life and realize baseball didn't make much sense because I had 6 stitches, 3 pins in my wrist as well. So injuries were something I was familiar with.
Yeah.
And so I realized that college didn't make sense if I wasn't going to be playing baseball. The thought
Hmm.
process, I think, is you go to college to get I guess, a 9 to 5 job. Just the idea that however much effort I put in, I'm going to get something out per hour. And that never made any sense to me. Like I said, my grandfather passing a few months before his retirement, working hourly,
Hmm.
that mindset, that perspective, never made sense to me. So yeah,
Yeah. And you said you experience injuries quite frequently when it comes to baseball. Because
yeah,
where I come from, baseball isn't that popular sport.
Mhm.
But I didn't see baseball as sport where we do get injured a lot. So am I wrong, or is it actually quite a dangerous sport when compared to others?
I mean, dangerous is it's all relative, really, because I mean, it's not like if I get hit by a ball or something like that, that's not really the way that you
Obviously, in
get.
your face or something.
Yeah, like that's not really the way you get injured more so. But if you think of it like football's around nowadays, like American football, right? It just started recently. They have about 16, 17 games in a year.
Mhm.
Baseball has about 160. So
Oh
you'd
wow, that's a
imagine,
lot.
yeah, there's a lot more games and a lot more area to get injured. So
Mhm.
for me, my wrist, how that broke was I was diving back to the bag. My hand went forward, but my thumb didn't. And then I
Yeah.
stole second, and the same thing happened there. And then my shoulder, I mean, I played a lot of baseball, but I was also working out a lot, and I just put too much emphasis on it and just went downhill. Just
Yeah.
didn't allow myself to rest, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think so.
And do you think that if there weren't these injuries, that you would still continue playing baseball or pursuing career of professional baseball player?
Honestly, I really don't think much about it anymore because it feels like I'm so grateful that it happened. My entire life,
Mm.
the only thing I committed to was baseball. That's the only thing I thought about. And then injuries happen, and then it kind of makes you realize that that path, looking at my life now, that was never going to be my path.
Mhm.
Looking at the way that and what I feel like doing now, I have so much more fulfillment and freedom doing what I do today. So, no, I don't think so.
I like the mindset. But did you have this, or when did you get actually this mindset? Because I would assume that maybe you were disappointed when it happened, or was it like a quick reflection that you realized that actually this is like a positive thing, or how did you feel?
Yeah, I think for me, it's life is just an evolution of you taking on beliefs and changing your mind on them. And so for me, the belief that baseball was the path forward, the belief that life was happening for me or to me, whatever it may be, I've just continued to open my mind and never get too solidified in my beliefs or about what I believe is true or what I believe is the right decision or the right path or the wrong path or whatever that may be. So I think it's just an evolution of life in general. All the experiences that I've been able to have just carved my perception, I guess.
Mhm. Again, I will repeat myself, but love the mindset. So when this happened, what were your next steps about how to decide what else to pursue in your life?
For me, it kind of just happened, and this is why I say baseball definitely wouldn't have been my path because life just kind of felt like it intervened in a way. I was listening to a podcast, and at the end of the podcast, they were talking about a coaching program. I had no idea what a coach was, but I knew that it felt really right.
Mhm.
I went through my life with a terrible mindset that didn't serve me, and then my mindset shifted in what felt like such a short amount of time. And in that process, I realized that mindset really is everything. And not a lot of people give enough emphasis to it. We almost overlook it because we feel it doesn't really have value. However, I became a mindset coach at 17 years old, which sounds crazy, but I invested into myself and spent a lot of money to figure out how to coach people to help them move their life forward in the way that they want to. And, really how to be the best version I can be for myself and others. And so that's the pathway that I went down. I ended up becoming a coach in a long and short amount of time in the same sense.
Yeah. And when you wanted to become a coach, did you take some kind of course or did you educate yourself or both? Or how did you learn everything?
Yeah, I went through a program. It was about 10 weeks. It was probably 8 grand.
Mm.
Of so I had it was me and about 1,000 other coaches or so. So
Mm.
every single week we'd meet 3 times a week, getting advice from some of the best coaches in the world, um, on how
Sorry,
to
was
just.
it in a person or online?
Yeah, it was online. It was online.
Yeah.
But we're on Zoom I think it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's been a long time since I've been in it, but yeah, learned how to be coached through that, through a podcaster, funny enough, one of the biggest podcasters in the world. So I learned through him.
Can you
And
name who was it?
yeah, his name is Rob Dial. He is the Mindset Mentor podcast. You may not know who he is, but his level of podcasting is similar to Lewis Howes in the hundreds of millions of downloads.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's impressive. So how did you find the course? Did it meet expectations? Did you learn a lot?
I think that the investment in myself was more beneficial than the value that I got from the course. And I think that happens a lot. A lot of the time, what we're looking for in investing in ourselves is some kind of result. And I think the best result that we get is just the way that we change, the way we look at ourselves, and we show up for ourselves when we invest into ourselves, because it really helps us realize that, hey, like, now the work starts. It doesn't end here. It starts here. And so for me, it made me take coaching a lot more seriously and even have an idea of what that was. But the course in itself, I definitely would say there's definitely things that can be improved for sure.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, were there any other students that were of similar age as you?
No, I was the youngest for sure. I mean, if you can find another coach that's 21, let me know. I know a lot of people that have thought about it, but haven't really taken much step towards it.
Did you then experience any, let's say, negative or unexpected feedback because you are so young and you're trying to be a coach?
I mean, I think everyone has their own perspective that they take, and expectations of how I can support. But anyone I actually worked with, no. I've never had anyone. Most people I've worked with have been older than me, and I've never once had someone that I've worked with have any pushback towards my age. Because usually after, when we initially connect to see if we're even a good fit to working together, they automatically know that I can help them or I can't help them from that initial call. So anyone that moves forward after that initial call, there's no hesitation now.
When it comes to coaching itself, for someone who never experienced that, can you walk us through the process? What is it like, let's say, coaching sessions or coaching collaboration? What to expect?
Yeah, I think for me, the best way I can frame it, the best way I've understood it to explain to people that don't know what a coach is, because I think it's really misunderstood, it's clarity and accountability, in the sense that a lot of us are trying to overcome our problems by ourselves. And granted, we weren't taught to ask for help, which would make sense. However, the way that I like to see it is, if your problem is really close to you and it's so close to you that you can't see a path forward, then having someone else come in there and be an external perspective for you to help you see your problem from a different perspective, from a different angle, you're able to overcome those problems a lot easier because you have someone that doesn't have the bias that you have towards that problem. And so not only am I giving people clarity on why they're dealing with X problem, for me, it's a lot of self-sabotage, procrastination, imposter syndrome, stuff like that, self-doubt, fear. I'm able to help people understand why that fear is there to begin with, and then have them take actionable steps to overcome that fear and hold them accountable by doing so. And on top of that, it's a coach that I know that I had on my podcast. He coaches a lot of celebrities, said that coaching is permission and reminders. And I love that perspective is too. So clarity, accountability, permission, and reminders. Permission, because a lot of the time we feel we need permission from someone else to take action on the thing that we want to take action on, when in reality, we just need to give ourselves the permission. But sometimes having someone else give us the permission is really, really empowering. And then reminders, because most of the time, coaching is not me giving you advice. It's me reminding you of what you already know. It's helping you get to the answer that you know deep down. So coaching isn't really giving advice, but it's more so asking questions to help people get to their own answers. So that's the best way I can explain it.
Is there any specific type of audience or customers that you work with, or it can be pretty much anyone?
Yeah, the cool thing about my age, I think, is I'm able to work with most people. I've worked with people that are 10 years old, and I've worked with people that are 43 years old.
Oh, you said 10 years old?
10 years old. My first coach was a 10-year-old. Yeah.
Wow.
Sounds crazy. But one of the moms in the coaching program that I joined really saw a lot in me and wanted me to help her son, because he was trying to be in therapy, but being in therapy with a 35-year-old woman and a 10-year-old boy, it's really hard to, resonate.
Yeah.
And so it made
I guess it's much more relatable to speak with someone of similar age.
For sure.
Makes sense,
so for me, it made sense then, but now, but then my next client was a 43-year-old woman. And so I can resonate with so many different people. A lot of the time it's usually like a guy 25 to 30 that's either not very happy with their job, or they already are an entrepreneur. That kind of person is usually the person I attract.
Are you looking to elevate your online presence? Check out Trailblazed, our digital marketing agency. Whether it's standing out on social media, crafting a stunning new website, or developing impactful visuals, Trailblazed has got your back. Visit trailblazed.digital and reach your online potential today.
And when it comes to collaboration itself, can you say what is like the span of the collaboration? Whether it's, I don't know, one session, weeks, months, or even years?
Yeah. Usually it's about 3 to 9 months. That's what we go for. 3 to 6 realistically, but A lot of people come back and then we work for longer periods of time, but the actual coaching engagement in itself is usually 3 to 6 months at least.
Mhm. Are there any recurring obstacles, challenges, or issues that you can see across the people that you work with?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is for everyone is a lot of childhood trauma that we don't realize plays a role in our lives now. And again, it goes back to, like I said, I'm not giving anyone advice. So I think a lot of the time it's just helping people see why they're dealing with the problem that they're dealing with from a perspective that maybe they didn't even realize played a role. And a lot of that goes back to childhood trauma and things that we went through in childhood that we're trying to prove to ourselves nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that your own experience from childhood makes you maybe more understanding of these situations?
I guess so. I think it makes me more understanding. I think it helps give me some grace for people
Mm-hmm.
and to help other people give that to themselves, have a little bit more compassion, I believe, for sure.
Yeah. And was there ever any client that you struggled with? Maybe something very challenging and you didn't know how to proceed?
Not necessarily. I think the only thing that is challenging working with people is, and this is why the investment is so important, is if you work with someone and the investment isn't uncomfortable to them, they're not going to take it serious. And it's difficult to say that because a lot of people think, oh, well, the coach just wants more money or whatever it may be. But in reality, if you don't take it serious, why would the coach take it serious? Right. And
Mhm.
so I think the only challenge is people that say they want to do something and their actions don't reflect that, even after they've invested, because maybe it's just not uncomfortable enough for them.
Yeah, yeah. And has it happened to you that you refused any clients? Maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
What were the reasons? Not accountable, not taken
Uh,
seriously?
yeah, I think so. I think it just, you can tell. I think a lot of it is like the "it's just vibes, bro" is so true. I think I heard Chris Williamson talk about that with Andrew Huberman recently or something.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
might have been, but it really is true. It's like when we hop on that initial call to even see if we're a good fit, because I work one-on-one with people mainly, so the only way it's going to work is if we have good rapport, if we have a good
Mhm.
relationship, right? And so if off that first call I just can already tell it's not vibes, then we're not moving forward.
Yeah, not worth it. Yeah, understand. And to get a perspective, what's the number, or at least to get an idea of number of clients that you work with?
5 to 10 usually is like the
Mm-hmm.
max that I'll go. Because one-on-one clients, it sounds easy, like 5 to 10 sounds easy when you first think about it, because it's just one call a week or one call every other week kind of thing. But it adds up because you're taking on their challenges in a way. And so that can be overwhelming sometimes. But that's usually my max I'll do.
And are you that kind of person who works only during the work, during the sessions, or are you even thinking about it after that? Such as I would say you take your work home, although it's not a really great comparison to this scenario, but I'm sure that you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I say I don't go over 5 to 10 because of that
Mm.
exactly. Because yeah, I mean, in my soul, I want to help. I want to help people, and so I'm always gonna take it with me.
Mhm.
Maybe sometimes unintentionally. I'm getting better at it for sure, but yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And I would be curious, have you got coach by yourself?
yeah, absolutely. That's why I coach, because there are coaches out there that don't invest into coaching, and it blows my mind because it's like, well, how can you have someone want to work with you if you don't work with someone? So yeah, I've been
Hmm.
working with someone in one respect or another, whether that's health, personal, business, since I was 17. Yeah, since I started coaching to begin with. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to yourself, improving yourself as a coach, do you still continue educating yourself, to be better, to improve? Or you feel like that you reached the level already?
No, there's never a level to reach, I think, because no matter what you do or accomplish, there's never and there isn't an end point. Behind the mountain that you're climbing is another mountain, and I
Hmm.
really believe that. And so, yeah, absolutely, it's a part of my daily. It's a part of just what I do without even thinking about doing it, I guess.
Yeah, I like that. Can you maybe, for some people who would want to become coaches as well, can you recommend any resources, whether it will be books, courses, people to follow, or something that you feel like that they would find helpful?
Yeah. The one that I can think of top of mind right now is a book called Coaching Habit. I'm Michael Benkei Stanier. I had him on my podcast last year. Great human. And I
it's
think
impressive.
it's really good. Yeah, it was a book that one of my first coaches recommended to me. I read it, and then I wanted to. It's a big reason I started the podcast. Was like, if I can read a book and then talk to the person that wrote the book, the questions that I have based on the book, that's the coolest thing ever. So I spoke with him. He was really cool, and I think it's a good book to have because it reminds you that a lot of the time we want to give advice, and it's not needed. It's not needed. We just need to follow up with questions because we don't have the answers.
Yeah, that's smart. I will add it to my reading list. And before moving to another topic, what are your plans when it comes to the coachings, or any aspirations?
Yeah, I think for me, I want to lean back, take a step back from one-on-one and figure out what my long-term goals are for coaching, I guess, because it's really hard to scale one-on-one and to impact a lot of people. It's not really possible through one-on-one because you can only take on so many people. So I don't know if that looks like a community or eventually doing events or doing something in relation to the podcast community that I have. I'm not really sure, but I'm a really day-to-day person, and I like that about myself because we get too caught up in plans, and plans change, life changes, life gets in the way anyways. So not anything necessarily that's in the works.
Yeah. And actually, one question that I would regret not asking, but I can imagine that it was probably challenging in the beginning, finding the clients where you became a coach, but maybe you didn't have any credit to back it up. So what was it like for you to find the clients, or how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a big thing. I think it's just sharing. I mean, I've been sharing my story since for 4 years almost. And so day after day, you see a post of me talking about something that I went through or something that I'm going through or something, an insight that can hopefully impact someone else. And like I said, a lot of coaching is reminders to begin with. So I'm giving people information that maybe they do know, maybe they don't know, but being reminded of it is always good and always helpful. So I think just showing up day after day just gave people kind of like I was in the top of their mind in some way. And most of the time through coaching, through the initial conversation I have with people after they see a piece of my content or we've connected through the DMs or whatever it may be, I think my energy comes across. I hope it does, that I'm just genuinely trying to help. I'm not trying to sell anybody. And so when people see that through the call and we connect and I genuinely am curious about what they're going through, I think it's really easy to see that I simply want to serve. That's really at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I know I asked this before, but does it happen to you that you receive some negative feedback? Again, maybe people judging you because of your age and you coaching.
Not directly. No, not really. I think some people will have the preconceived notions of my age, but no, I don't let it impact me, at least. I used to, for sure. But the older I get, the younger I want to be, funny enough. But when I was younger, I wanted to be older because I wanted to be seen.
I feel the same.
Yeah, now I'm older and I'm like, man, I was sick for 17, like getting started. Like, I didn't realize how young that was. So, no, I think if anything, it's a superpower because people are more surprised by where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely smart strategy because, for example, when I checked your Instagram, you share some great shorts and reels that I believe people can find helpful. And it's like a useful and valuable content for free, which I think is the best way how to advertise yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So doing really well. Then I think you mentioned it before, but can you say why did you actually decide with the podcasting?
Yeah, I think a big reason was I started doing solo episodes, funny enough. So my first 100 episodes were straight solo in my car.
Oh, in your car?
In my car, man. I didn't have a microphone. Like I was straight off my computer, dude. But I just wanted to share my story. I felt like when I get to the end of my life, I want to be able to say that I'm glad I did, not that I wish I had. And I think with anything, you've probably felt this with your podcast. Most people feel it in some creative calling. It's a calling. Like it's something that you really can't say no to. You feel like you need to do it. And for me, that was the podcast. The mindset of you can too was just so ingrained into me because I saw so many people, growing up with social media, you see so many things on social media. And I was just always mesmerized by accomplishments that people could do. And I was also mesmerized and curious about why more people weren't able to create a life that they love, create opportunity for themselves. And a lot of it just comes down to we don't believe that we can, and our behavior is going to reflect that. And so I was always curious about that. And then again, I read a lot of books and I always thought, well, if I could speak to the author that'd be pretty sick. And I've been able to speak with plenty of authors that I've read their book, and so it's really, really cool. To this day, I still
Yeah,
find it fascinating.
I can only agree. I've seen your guests, and it's impressive. And I also, although not to diminish any of my guests, but haven't spoken with maybe such names as you did, but I also spoke with some people that when I started, I would never expect to speak with. So I completely agree with you, and it was like a beautiful achievement. That's something I would never expect before. Now I experienced, and all the work behind it, it was just a great feeling. So I hope everyone experiences something like that.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think there's so much power in proximity. That's for sure.
And at the same time, when you are starting, have you experienced like that you were afraid to start because of what would people think of you, or you didn't feel this way?
Absolutely, I did. I think anyone does. I think for me, if you don't, I'd be very surprised. Like, where are you getting that kind of mindset? Because I definitely didn't have it. I think for me, when like I said, I invested into a coaching program, and I was the youngest coach of over 1,000 coaches. So and by far too. So if I'm surrounding myself with other people that are in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, trying to do the same thing as I am, but they also have the imposter syndrome and fear of insecurity and every other fear that you can think of. Everyone else had it just as much as I did. So that kind of took the age thing out of being something that could limit me, because everyone else was dealing with the same challenges that I was dealing with. But for me, it was because I invested into myself, I gave myself no other option. Now I had to do it. And so the podcast just felt like it. Like if I was going to invest into coaching and figure that out, then the podcast, the fear behind that was just out of the window, because I'm already doing coaching, and that's way more fearful than sharing a podcast.
Yeah.
That's the way
And
I saw it.
Then you said you did the first around 100 episode only by yourself. So then was there like a switch when you decided to start interviewing people, or was it gradual progress?
Yeah, it was pretty much at 100, honestly. I just wanted to get the reps in.
Like a milestone. Now I can speak with someone.
Yeah, I hit 100 episodes. I think it was 100. Episode 106 is my first interview, I think. And then ever since then, I've done at least an interview a week. And there was a period of time when I did 2 interviews a week, and that's catches up with you really easy. But yeah, then I started doing interviews.
For the people who are not familiar with your podcast, can you say the number of episodes you've produced?
Yeah, let me check, because I think I just released one. I just released one yesterday. I'm on 259.
Oh, wow, nice.
259. Yeah.
So what were like the first guests that you spoke with? Or did you already reach out to big names, or did you again go somehow gradually?
A little bit of both. It feels like it's been so long, so I couldn't even tell you who my first guests were, because like I'm like I've spoken with so many people over the years that like I often forget. But I think I definitely thought big from the beginning. I'll say that. Like I was trying to get episode 160 was Seth Godin, for example. So like as soon as I was thinking about getting guests, I was thinking about getting the biggest, the best, the most profound guests that I can think of.
So now, can you reveal us some secret formulas or something? How do you get such a big guest on your podcast? I'm pretty sure that this is the question that everyone asks you, but I'm really curious.
Yeah, I released a course, not to shameless plug, but I released a course on this because so many people have asked. Because there isn't like a secret. There's nothing secret about it, really. I think the secret is doing the work. Like there's been people.
So you are not bribing those guests?
No. Oh my God, I've never charged anyone. Oh my God.
No, I'm just joking. Yeah.
No, never charged. Never will pay for anyone to come on the show either. Never will do that. For me, it was just. I think the funniest part of like how it resonates with the name of the podcast of You Can Too is like I'm really trying to live that out. Like I'm trying to live that perspective out for other people to live out as well. But I have to be an example. So for me, it was just thinking most people don't even reach out to the guests that you want. Like most people don't even have the courage to ask Seth Godin to be on their podcast. And so you think, well, if all the people that you think are reaching out aren't actually reaching out, well, then when you reach out, it's going to be a surprise. And so they'll probably say yes. Most people want to talk about themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so having a podcast is a great opportunity for them to talk about themselves.
Mm.
So yeah, I think I just started asking people, and a lot more people said yes than I thought. But there's definitely a lot of things that go into carving a perfect pitch, how to do figure out the right timing, ways to find an email, and like there's specific hacks and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's just literally reaching out and doing the work.
And as you said, you may text to, let's say, 10 people, 9 people will refuse, but there's still maybe that one person who will accept. And it still may be a big name. So as you said, you may just try and you never know. So I think you summarized it perfectly.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time too. A lot of people underestimate how long it takes. Like I said, there's some people it took a whole year of following up with them to get them on the show, and they finally said yes. So
yeah,
gotta
of
put in
course.
that work.
And especially if it's like a big name, you need to understand that there are hundreds like you who are trying to get the person on the pod, and we are just people. You cannot do podcast every day or recording with someone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there then, I'm sure that there are, but some names that you wish to speak with on our podcast, but you haven't yet?
Yeah, I mean, some of the books are behind me. We got Tim Ferriss, Ryan Holiday, Lewis Howes.
Big names.
Yeah, literally right behind me. So I'd say those, honestly, those are 3 that come up for me.
Yeah.
Chris Williamson, a bunch of others like that too, for sure. But yeah.
And from the number of guests that you spoke with, was there, let's say, a specific guest that you enjoyed for some reason? And you can share why, maybe something memorable, unexpected, interesting.
Yeah. I recently spoke with Tyler Henry, the Hollywood Medium.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. I think it was really cool to speak with him because he's spoken with, and he has 2 Netflix specials he's going on.
Another impressive name, I see.
Yeah, 2 Netflix specials. Like, he collaborates with celebrities all the time doing readings for them. I'm trying to think of some others that I can think of. Benjamin Hardy was really cool. Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I have a few of his books behind me as well. Really cool organizational psychologist that just dives into a lot of mindset that I find fascinating. Derek Sivers was really cool as well because he's a friend of Tim Ferriss that is just, I really admire his lifestyle in the way that he approaches life and what he values. There's so many.
Yeah. And now, I know you mentioned before that you don't listen to podcasts as much anymore, but I assume that you still follow some podcasts or listen to some. So can you name a few?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Williamson for sure. Diver CEO, those kind of things, like the big ones. Do you know who Jay Klaus is by chance?
Yes. So is it Greater Science?
Yeah. I had him on my podcast probably over a year ago now, which is crazy.
Oh, pretty cool,
But he's blown up this past year on YouTube, which he absolutely deserves. He's such an amazing creator. So I'd say his, just to point that out.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I've seen that a lot of guests mentioned that you got a great preparation for your podcast.
For sure.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
So how do you prepare for it? Or if you can reveal, I don't know, something that you do, maybe you don't want to reveal all the secrets, but give us some inspiration.
Yeah, I think a lot of the simple way to put it is I listen to a lot of episodes or work that they've put down, maybe it's books, but just dive into the work and then ask questions that I genuinely am curious about. And if they've been on other podcasts, what are questions that I think the guests could have asked? What's like the additional question on top of the question that they asked, or the underlying question that they're not asking? And a lot of the time too is like I'm trying to share stories. So I don't want to just talk about your accomplishments, but like, what did you go through to get here? And what are you going through right now to get to the next level of your life? And so a lot of the questions I ask are more so based in, what do you wish you knew? What skill do you wish you developed? What are you going through right now? What's something that you learned about yourself through writing X book, something like that? More so, like just trying to save me and my audience some time in life, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And do you do also episodes in person, physical ones, or online only?
I haven't done any in person yet. I kind of am like similar to Tim Ferriss, in which I love I'm speaking with you right now. You're in London, I'm in New York. Like, that's pretty sick.
Across the whole world.
Yeah, right. I spoke with someone in Florida yesterday. I spoke with someone else in Pennsylvania yesterday. Like, people are around the world all the time. And so it's a blessing that we get to speak through the computer.
I agree, because I also spoke with some people literally around the world, whether it was South Korea, Europe, I don't know, Indonesia or US now. So it's just impressive that you speak with people originally from everywhere. Sometimes I just find it challenging when it comes to timing to remember that there is always hour difference. But it's great, as you said, that we can connect despite different distances. Yeah. And similar questions as I asked you before when it comes to the coaching. So when it comes to the podcasting, do you have any specific goals, milestones, or something you want to achieve in the future?
Honestly, just to keep doing it. It's an infinite game for me kind of thing where every week, like the goal isn't to create a podcast that I get to sell or something in the future. It's more so an opportunity to speak with a new cool human every single week. And so if I can continue to just speak with cool people, build my relationships with amazing people, and hopefully open up opportunities career-wise and personally, that's a win for me, honestly.
What will be some, again, recurring themes or topics or lessons that you can see across speaking with so many impressive people?
That they're not special, that they just take action, that they're willing to invest into themselves and shortcut the time that they would have to go through by investing into themselves so that they don't have to learn mistakes and go through challenges and take longer. Those are the things that come up for me right now.
I think it's a good reminder or realization that they are the same people as you are, not like a god or any special people. So I like this one, and I can only agree with you. When it comes to people that want to start podcasting, have you got any advice for aspiring podcasters?
Yeah, think big from the beginning. Like I said, most of the time, most of the guests that you want to get on your show, you probably can. But if you think that you can't, you won't. It just won't happen. And so think big from the beginning. Create a dream guest list of 100 people and reach out to those people. And you'd be surprised on how many people that will say yes to you.
Yeah, I agree. And then, as we said before, you never know, after a certain number of episodes, you may speak with those people. And it's a beautiful achievement and reward after all the hard work that you've done.
1000%.
I would be also curious, it sounds like you manage quite a lot. So when it comes to your time management, how are you handling, doing these podcasts? Because I know how much work there is behind it. You are doing coaching, obviously some kind of personal development and everything. How do you handle everything?
Honestly, I'd say pretty well. I've created most of my work I get done in the morning. Like if after this call it's 11 a.m., if I wanted to not work for the rest of the day, I could do that. 1000%. Most of the days I stop work around 3 p.m. Just because I don't want to work later, and I optimize for enjoyment, and I think that's something that is really pushed back against in self-improvement in business, because we're always supposed to be grinding to get to the next level, and I just don't align with that.
You need to enjoy life as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point of it's like Chris Williamson says it 1,000 times, but you're trading happiness for success, which is supposed to give you happiness, and it's like, well, then where am I going? So if I try to burn myself out or do too much, then it's just not going to be an enjoyable ride. I think creating routines and habits in my day that make sure I'm prioritizing the needle moving activities, and then also creating a stop point. So 3, 4, 5 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm not working after that, and making sure that that is solidified, because it's really easy to work until you can't work anymore in entrepreneurship. That's for sure.
I actually haven't asked you before, but have you got a team for podcasting, or is it just you?
Just me. I've created a lot of great systems around it, so you'd be surprised. It's not easy by any means, but it's pretty straightforward. And doing it for 3+ years, I've definitely gotten a routine of just making it easier on myself. I have an editor, so I will say that. But other than that, no, it's just me.
Yeah. And as a podcaster myself, how do you promote your podcast, or what are like social media platforms that you focus on, or the ways, how to spread the word?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the best way to spread the word is through other people, mouth to mouth, to be honest, at the end of the day. Because if one person is recommending it to someone else, that's the best kind of way to get more listeners to your audience. And then I would say YouTube. Just get on YouTube as soon as you can, because that's the path that's going to have the most guaranteed exponential growth, I guess, because listens, if you're trying to grow your downloads, that's the hardest thing ever. Like it genuinely, it is very difficult to grow downloads. But if you want to grow videos, like views, it's much easier on YouTube. So I say get on YouTube.
And speaking of YouTube, how much emphasis do you put into thumbnails and titles? Because obviously on YouTube it plays a big role.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one of those things that I'm trying to build a better relationship with, because I don't put as much emphasis as I should on, or I could, on title and thumbnails. Thumbnails I'm doing a little bit better at, but titles I could definitely take more time to think more about. But I'm so focused on just genuinely making sure the conversation's a good conversation. The
Mhm.
packaging is like the second thought, when if I really want to grow it, it should be first thought. So trying to prioritize that more.
What's your opinion on YouTube Shorts?
I don't have one. I think they're similar to anything else, YouTube or TikTok, Instagram. They're all, if you're gonna post on one, might as well post on all. So that's my opinion, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of share it. And before, when you said that after work you need to obviously enjoy yourself, so what are some ways how you spend your free time?
Man, sports is a big thing for me. Running has been a big thing for me. Recently, I've been running a lot more. I ran right before this. Gym, walks, travel is really big. As I said, I'm going to Colombia next year. I travel at least once a month. Yeah, spend time.
Travels, but hasn't visited Europe yet.
No, I will. I will. Like I said, I was going to go to Paris in November of this year, and then
Hmm.
plans changed, and I'm going to Vegas. So
Oh my God, that
much of
sounds
a
still
different,
exciting.
yeah, definitely a different change. But I'll eventually get there for sure. I want to take my mom to Paris because she's always wanted to go. So when I
Hmm.
go, I'll probably be bringing her.
Yeah, and it might be nice now after Olympics. You know, I guess it should be cleaner or more developed and
That's what
everything.
I think. Yeah, and like I mean, I want to see Rome and all those places too. But it just seems like a lot of places are under construction, and maybe I should wait a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, and I would also recommend to pick period when it's not overcrowded.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned Rome, I went there a year ago, and I cannot imagine if I went there during summer holidays. It was just disaster.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I don't know why
Mhm.
people go there during that time. I get it, but like I wouldn't. That's for sure.
And out of places that you visited, what was the place that you enjoyed the most or was the best for you?
Yeah, I spent 4 months in Hawaii this year on Kauai,
Mm, wow.
which is if you know Jurassic Park. Do you know that movie?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I grew up with that movie.
Right. It was filmed there. Hawaii was man, it feels like home. I always felt like I wanted to go there, and I felt called to go there. Got the opportunity
Yeah.
to stay there for 4 months. I think everyone should go to Kauai. It is a spiritual experience, is what I've explained to other people. The best way I can explain it, because it doesn't feel like a place. It's weird to explain.
Never been, but sounds beautiful. And from what I've seen, what I heard, definitely on my list as well. But it's far away, but hopefully one day.
Yeah, and Costa Rica was great too. I can recommend that as well. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, culture-rich place.
Latin America, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, sounds nice. And you mentioned sport. So outside of the running or gym, have you got any favorite sports?
I've been getting into jujitsu a little bit, and I
Oh,
really,
are you kidding? Jiu-jitsu.
yeah,
Oh my God. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
yes.
I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah,
If I knew that, I would ask that much earlier.
yeah. I love jujitsu. Is man, I think everyone should do jujitsu. I actually, funny enough,
I
I
agree.
did jujitsu in Hawaii, where the Gracies go every now and
Oh my
again.
God.
So I think the place that I went to, I don't think the Gracies own it, but like they co-own it in some way. And they have kids there, or they had like the men's section, and then there was like kids classes and stuff too. So many kids do it. So many kids do it there
Mm.
in Hawaii, and I think it's so cool because it's one of those
Yeah,
things that I genuinely believe. I think it's a martial art that everyone should start at a young age. I wish I started it earlier.
I completely agree. I wish I started earlier as well. And
Yeah,
such a cool sport.
it's humbling, which I
Yeah.
love, which I love.
Obviously, there are always some pros and cons, but it's great for your health, for your mindset.
Yeah,
I feel like the culture is amazing as well. So there are so many benefits that I would only recommend it too.
I'm right
And
with.
do you then continue like doing it consistently jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, the consistent part is the difficult part. I will say, like I said, I travel, so like I'll be home for 2 weeks, and it's like, okay, I can go a couple times for those 2 weeks, and then I'm gone for a week, and then, like I said, I was in Hawaii for 4 months. So funny enough, I texted that runs my place in New York right when I got back, and I was like, "Hey, like I think you guys moved locations, right? Like where are you at now? Because I'd like to go. I'd like to go again." So it's definitely difficult to stay consistent, but it's something that when I do it, like I'm all in on it. I think it's something that is really, even if you do it once a month or once every few months, like obviously it's better to do it more consistently, but the practice of doing it to begin with for anyone, I think is
And it's
amazing.
still better than nothing, even if you do
Exactly.
it once a month.
Right.
It's better than if you give up. And I'm glad to hear, the passion and the enthusiasm so that you still can go for it when you have time. So it's great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And have you tried both gi and no gi?
I've only done gi.
Oh,
I feel like no gi would be. I need to do no gi. Every time I went to class, the timing, as you probably know, it's like it's either early in the morning. At least for mine is like in the morning, like middle of the day, which doesn't work for me, or the end of the day. And I usually went at the end of the day, and that was always gi. So it just ended
yeah,
up working
okay.
that way.
But you want to try no gi as well, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I want to do everything like that. That's genuinely. I want to go everywhere. I want to do everything. I want to meet everyone. Like I genuinely feel like that's the purpose of life, is to just experience this life to the best of our ability. I had a guy on my podcast. He came out yesterday. Tursic, and he walked around the world, 28,000 miles. And like I find that so,
Walked, like literally
yeah,
walked on his.
world walk.
Wow.
Yeah, like walked around the world. Like I find
Oh
that
my
so
God.
fascinating. So everything that I can do, I want to do. That's for sure.
Yeah, wow. That sounds pretty cool. And then, as we will be finishing soon, can you mention, I've asked you, I know already, but when it comes to any books that you enjoyed, that were impactful on you, or that you would recommend to anyone to read outside of those that you mentioned before, can you name some?
Yeah. The one that comes to mind as you say that is Awareness by Anthony DeMello. It's
Yeah, I don't know this one. You'll need to
oh
have
man. It's I think I genuinely believe, like, to my soul, that book should be a requirement to be like considered an adult. You should have to read that book. I genuinely believe that. So I'll just leave it at that and say that book that people should read. It's an easy read too.
Yep, sounds good. We'll add it to my library as well. Then another similar question that I asked before, but outside of the specific areas I asked. Have you got any other plans or goals for the future?
Honestly, man, like I said, I really try not to think too much about the future because it takes me away from taking action in the present. And maybe that leads to a lack of vision for the future, but life is so uncertain that any kind of vision I have is going to be thrown out the window by life.
Yeah.
So continue doing the podcast, find some kind of medium for coaching that I can impact more people, and then travel. Honestly, travel's huge for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then obviously we discussed the podcast, but are there any other maybe social media or places where people can find you, where people can follow you or get in touch?
Yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. James Bracken IV. I may not be active, but I'm there. So for sure. But Instagram and YouTube are the place I'm active most.
And then before we finish, is there anything that you would like to share that I forgot to ask you, or that, I don't know, maybe you would like people to learn as a takeaway?
No, man, I think you did a great job. So nothing I can think of, but if there's anything else that you want to cover, I'm here for it.
I've got one question, it's just out of curiosity. So why is your name James Bracken IV, or 4, or what does it stand for?
Yeah, so I'm the fourth. So my father, my grandfather, and my grandfather's father all had the exact same name as me, from first name, middle name, and last. So it's considered the fourth.
Yeah,
I see not a lot of people do that, but like I can't be James Bracken because he's passed away. I can't be the second; he passed away too. So, and the third passed away. So like I'm the only one here, and if I don't have the IV, I feel like that's not me.
Actually, I thought so, that's what your parents were called, but then I thought not many people use this, so I wasn't sure
Right.
that was this.
Yeah, I hear not a lot of people use it, but I definitely do.
Should I then ask you what your son is going to be called?
If son's in the picture, man, I don't know. I have no idea. That feels so far away, honestly.
Yeah. Well, James, it was a pleasure to speak with you. I want to say a huge thank you, because as someone who's been following you, listening to your podcast, it was great to get to know you more. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that you will continue with your jiu-jitsu journey, because that's something that really surprised me. I'm also passionate about. But in general, great mindset. I think you achieved a lot, so I will be looking forward to following you more and seeing where your journey goes. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me, man. Definitely glad and looking forward to staying connected.
Thanks for listening to Produced by with Tomer. Check out show notes for all the links, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your feedback. Speak soon.